We are live. Hey,
What?
let me get that graphic off screen.
What's happening? Where are?
There we are.
Oh, there we are.
Look,
Hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. How you doing, Pat?
cheers.
Cheers.
I'm Pat. You're Leila, in case there's any confusion.
I can see because the names are right there. Cheers,
Mm.
everybody. We got a lot to drink about today. But before we
Look
get
at
too
you.
deep into it, first of all, thanks everybody for coming on. And Pat, tell me about your weekend. How did you spend your weekend?
Oh, you know what? I did something extremely useful. I got to tell Pelosi to get fucked at her house. Well, that was not the actual mission. There was a responsible reason to be there.
Yeah,
We were. It was the March for Medicare for All event, Day of the Dead, where we protest at Nancy Pelosi's bougie ass. I don't know, one out of four houses she has, or whatever it is these days. But in San Francisco, at the top of the hill, like literal. I don't know, medieval time stuff on the top of the hill, looking down on the
moat.
rest of San Francisco.
Right,
Yes,
right.
damn near with the moat. And so we protested at our house for the 68,000 dead from not having health care every year. But that's such a low number. That's completely inaccurate and doesn't even reflect how many people
Go
just have
bankrupt and like
lose their house, god awful coverage.
right.
But it was a great event. The weather was bad, and we still had 50 plus people there marching.
That's
We marched
awesome.
from the park to her house, raised some hell right out front, left an actual coffin on her door. So I hope she appreciated that. And I got to
Good.
speak, and I used my time to say some words, but also fuck you, Pelosi. So that's all that matters to me.
Mission accomplished. Good.
Yes.
I'm surprised. I was kind of hoping. Sorry, I can admit it now that somebody would get arrested and cause a big ruckus, but didn't happen.
I was prepared to, not that it mattered, but
Well, I followed all of you guys. So impressive and grateful that you guys were out there doing that. And I know you had to travel. I think Sharif traveled across the whole country. People traveled from upstate, like it was, or up on the
yeah.
upper coast. Yeah.
I don't
So,
want to get into names because I'll forget people, but
yeah, I know,
the Red Beret folks were all there, which they're phenomenal. I got a new Red Beret. I'm always collecting my Red Berets,
nice.
and they
Love it.
and that's Laura Fielding is one of the founders. And then
Right.
from Red Berets, there was also they came down from Washington just to be at this event.
Amazing.
Jason Call came, candidate in Washington. Eric Curry in San Francisco, also another candidate.
Cool.
Catherine and
Shahid Butler was there.
Lisa Shahid, who's going to run again against Pelosi.
Yep.
It was just a great event. A lot of solidarity. A lot of cars driving by were on our side, honking their horn.
That's awesome.
Hating
That's
Pelosi
awesome.
as well. Yeah.
I mean, it's so crazy that we have to fight so hard for something that a majority of the country wants, but here we are. So thank you for doing it, all of you.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right,
cheers.
well, yeah, cheers. Another slow news week. So how do you want to start? Do we just dive into the wheel? Do you want to talk about the election results from last night? Do you want to talk about who's to blame, or do we just
I think we start with cheers. I think we were kind of talking about doing that. We didn't. Right. We're winging it as every week. But here, cheers. There's good news out there to the striking workers everywhere.
That's right.
It's more and more apparent to everyone on earth, which was reflected in the elections, but that workers are getting fucked right now, and our government, including Democrats, isn't working for us. So all these strikers are saying, we're not going to wait for the government to do anything. We are going to protest now and get our own shit handled. So
that's right. Yeah.
Cheers
solidarity, and cheers to all you striking workers, because it is not easy what they are doing and what they're sacrificing. And while they're doing that, they are giving many of us around the country hope, because electoral politics is not always where it's at. So thank you to those of you who are taking to the streets. It's really impressive. And it's my one glimmer of hope out there these days.
Yeah, same. I mean, like I keep saying, Bernie's movement activated a million volunteers, literally a million people said,
Yep.
I'm going to go work for Bernie to get him elected. So if we had a million people backing all these strikes in a
Yep.
volunteer network, just amplifying them, spreading the word, I mean, I think that's where we really need to go eventually. So
Yeah,
kudos.
Kudos 100%. Yeah, and it's what we need because they're not responding. Sorry, I'm looking for our host Chiron because I'm a little bit of a OCD there. And I was like, wait, why is it so dark around us? I need some vibrancy. I put this on because I'm super depressed and I just thought I would cheer myself up with some redness, but then I needed to add that little Chiron, which I know we have to take away anyway. But yeah,
how was your weekend? I always forget to ask. I'm so self-interested. Every week, Leila asks me, how was my weekend? I'm never prepared to answer. Like it's a shock. I'm always shocked she asked me, and then I never ask her back. So how are you doing?
Social interaction. Yeah. I had a good weekend. I watched Scream with my 15-year-old, and it scared me all over again. It was a lot of fun. And basically just took it easy because I'm so old that after last weekend hanging out with you where I had so much fun, but like that for me was a packed weekend because I don't do a lot anymore. So it's been a long recovery period, but I feel like I'm finally getting my energy back. I'm going to make it. But yeah, it was a nice, just like family weekend. And
did it cancel out our weekend, which was not a family weekend?
It was not a family weekend. It was super fun. But I did need a lot of R&R. That's what happens as you get older. Right. You just can't keep it going the same way. So, but yeah, it was good.
It was nice. It was really nice seeing you and seeing your family, which is awesome. Josh is great. Your kids are great. It's just,
we had a lot of
and
fun.
your dog. Don't forget your dog. I love your dog.
My poor Sandy. No, she's doing okay. But oh yeah. So we did lots of snuggles. Yeah. But it was a good weekend. I was following, as we all were, what was happening. And I had hoped that I would have a really cohesive synthesis of the elections that happened last night. And I was hoping with my whole being that things would turn out in certain ways. They didn't and yet a little bit they did. It's just, of course, the drumbeat of corporate media is going to just keep one narrative going that is so phenomenally out of touch and yet is being sucked up by all of their viewers. And so that's depressing to me.
And the narrative obviously is that the Democratic Party needs to go left because that's where the voters are.
What? You're watching a different corporate media. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy though that like that's the obvious message to anyone who follows politics? Like it's so obvious that all these progressive policies, like people voted for Biden, but they supported all of Bernie's policies. They got scared mongered into voting for Biden, but they didn't, but Biden isn't even fulfilling his basic bullshit shitty promises. They're like, well, we'll vote for Biden, but at least he's doing these things and he's asking for these things. And he, obviously he hasn't done them, but anyway, it's crazy. I think we should just get to the wheel and drinking.
Let's bring some fun in here. Everyone grab a beverage and join in because that's where we're at. All right.
Yeah. Here we go.
I'm gonna take
baby.
Why am I not hearing that? Did you hear the spinning or anything?
I'm hearing all of it. I don't know if you're not. This gets us right into the crux of the situation. This is it. This is who we blame, is the progressives. We know who's to blame for the spectacularly embarrassing loss in Virginia of Terry McAuliffe, which was a kind of referendum or a microcosm of how people are feeling about Biden. The way Virginia goes is often the way the country goes in the midterms. And just as a reminder, Biden won Virginia by 10 points a year ago. So you would think, riding on that wave, that Terry McAuliffe would pull it off, and yet he didn't. And so we know exactly who to blame. Let's just put up the first graphic to show you. There you go.
Yeah. Some in Biden land are already asking themselves if the president has allowed himself to be tugged too far to the left while in office. And those voices are likely to get louder now. Yeah, they are getting louder. But it's pointing out who's full of shit. I mean, we've already known these people are full of shit, but there's no way you can put this on progressives.
No. Well, I mean, I wrote back to that ghoul and was like, what the, you've lost your fucking mind. Name me one thing, one progressive thing about Biden. You can't. There's not a single thing left about him, not one. So that's a lie.
Yeah, let's look at some of the things people have said in the aftermath of this.
Anti-choice Tim Kaine, Hillary's guy, blames purist demands by congressional Democrats for Terry McAuliffe's loss to Glenn Youngkin. So, it's so amazing because the lead up to this was, hey, you progressives have to stop, taking the ball and going home and being so, having your purity politics and get behind and get behind the bipartisan infrastructure bill so we can pass something so that going into this election on yesterday, McAuliffe has a win to talk about. Mm-hmm. And so the whole time, Biden's agenda, which I'm like using in heavy sarcastic quotation marks, the Build Back Better agenda, which was Bernie's agenda, which was a $10 trillion, agenda of social programs and climate and infrastructure has been whittled down, and the compromise from Bernie's original 16 trillion to 10 trillion to then to 6 trillion, and Manchin in January said, okay, I can do 4 trillion, and somehow now we're down to 1.75 with every single popular policy stripped. But they wanted progressives to vote for the bipartisan bill in Congress because no corporate Democrat has any intention of passing any social program spending at all.
Yeah, let's just look at some of the things that were hyped even on, I don't know if this is from CNN or MSNBC, but these were the selling points that Biden's Build Back Better plan is so popular because of these things. Okay. This is where the public stands on all the. This is from Kaiser of all
83% support negotiating drug prices. Well, that's scrapped. They're going to negotiate with 10 different drugs, and they're not going to big pharma companies for 10 different drugs, and they're only going to set that into action in 2025. Right when we all need it.
Just in time, 2025. We're going to lower the prices for you in 4 years. That's what the Democrats are offering now as their saving grace to fascism. This is how we're going to stop fascism, by offering this 4-year plan to lower drugs.
I mean,
anyway, keep going.
Yeah. Tax hikes for the wealthy. Those aren't going to happen. And in fact, I mean, I know we have a graphic for this later, but they're actually now going to repeal the salt
tax.
And not only repeal it, which is so gross, they're going to make it retroactive. So that's actually an enormous tax cut for millionaires and billionaires. Go ahead, because there is a graphic that I just think people should see.
Pull it up. Biden is he's going to out corporate giveaway the Republicans. I mean, this is how absurd it is. So
it's more than what Trump did.
People see this. I mean, he ran on at least being sort of a centristy guy who gets the average Joe person and rides the train and all that nonsense. But
they can't even do tax. I mean, they can't even tax the wealthy, like the fabulously wealthy. I'm not even talking the $400,000 a year people. I'm talking millionaires and billionaires, and they will not even do that.
I mean, it makes you want to be an accelerationist, which we have talked about before, but it's so depressing when you've got the Democrats giving corporate tax breaks. I mean, at least normally what happens is Democrats fight against Republicans. Oh no, don't give tax breaks, but it's all a shell game. But they come into office and they don't make things worse normally is the whole idea.
Right.
They just don't make things better. And here you have Biden in a pandemic not willing to tax billionaires. I mean, it's
I mean, they are laughing in our faces. They really are. And so that is enormously depressing. And then to blame progressives is just like, oh, it's like icing on the cake. Okay, so what else do we have here? We got, oh, well, of course, this is what you're always going to do is deplete social spending, in-home care, paid leave, housing aid, community college, take away all that money and funnel it right into the Pentagon.
Oof, which is a giant fuck you to progressives. I mean, obviously, but a giant fuck you to people that are suffering. So let's go back. Where is that on here? There's no popular provision of giving the Pentagon a lot more money.
What?
But that's not on there.
That makes
it's not on there.
Crazy.
Why are we doing that?
I know. Then we got expanding Medicare. Well, apparently we're going to do hearing. It must be that somehow
hearing must be cheap.
Exactly.
You could fix hearing on the cheap.
But not vision and dental, which is just, I mean, I don't have to explain to anybody who's watching, but those are all parts of our bodies too. And we also know that people who have, there are studies that like when your teeth, even cosmetically, besides, there's true, health reasons to have your teeth fixed. Oh, I can't hear you. He's doing a whole for hearing. Do you need us to find your hearing?
Oh my God, I'm going to get canceled.
Look at how you totally are.
I was not mocking the hearing impaired.
Oh God, I wasn't either. I wasn't trying to be funny.
I thought you were accusing me that because you're a terrible person. But
but yeah, but even just cosmetically, when people's teeth don't look a certain acceptable way, they're less likely to get hired at the higher level jobs. I mean, there's whole structures of suppressing people and subjugating them that are fed into this system, and that's part of it.
What I was adding was with this whole gesture was that if you tooth infections can lead to brain damage and death easily, and heart damage and all these things. So it is a health issue. To separate it out as not a health issue has always been ridiculous.
Of course, no, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But then we hear that this is a transformative climate bill, and that I also really, really take exception to. And I wrote something about it on Twitter the other day. And of course, all of Blue MAGA came out to tell me how something's better than nothing. And, incremental steps are really important, but it is just really fascinating to see the climate funding in this bill is 15 times less than the Pentagon budget. And also, by the way, we know that the U.S. military is one of the biggest factors in accelerating climate change and pollution in our world. So it's like, I mean, to give so little money to climate change and then offset it with 15 times that amount to one of the biggest producers of pollution is just...
Yeah, and we've just accepted as society. Well, they don't talk about it, but we've just accepted that, the oceans are going to rise and sea level is going to rise and take over a coast. I was listening the other day to NPR, which kudos for them to at least acknowledge it. But there's a whole country is about to be gone. They're looking at spending their money on moving their entire population to another country and just setting up their country in another country. And this is going to happen for sure now, because carbon, when it leaves, gets trapped in the oceans. So that is going to warm the oceans. It's already done. There's already so much carbon in the oceans that it's going to melt the ice caps and raise the sea level. That's already baked in.
Yep.
And people are just like, well, still, we'll just deal with it.
Yeah, they think they're going to billionaire their way to space out of it or something. Yeah. So I thought, thankfully there are a few sane voices out there, and David Sirota is favorite ones. If you were delirious destroy America's last remaining faith in democracy, this is how you would do it. So drug pricing negotiation is Americans' top priority in the spending bills, and Biden abandons that plan. You know, that if when you ask people to come out and vote for you, to take time out of their days to, you know, by the way, of course, this was a COVID global pandemic year where people came out to vote for Biden because they were terrified of Trump, not because anybody wanted Biden, but also they were promised some, you know, not as much as what they wanted. Yeah. And then he just abandons every single one of his promises. So that, what that does is it makes people never want to come back out to vote for them. I mean, I have to say I'm one of them. I'm getting to a point where I have lost entirely my faith in our democracy. And I know I'm slow to it. I'm sure most people watching have been there much longer than I am, but like I voted in every single election since I was 18. Yeah.
So this is what it comes down to in Virginia and all the races where Democrats lost is that they didn't give their voters anything to vote for. They didn't fulfill meager promises on the state level, on the national level, and it was incredibly obvious. And so Republicans were able to rally their base around ridiculous things like critical race theory and nonsense stuff. But who cares? So you can't just counter that. You need to give your voters something to come out for, which is how elections are won, motivating your base.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I know we've got other parts on the wheel that we'll come back to on this, but one thing that I really find depressing. So now they're blaming progressives. The, you know, establishment, corporate Dems are always going to blame progressives for this. I mean, actually, we have a clip where they talk about on CNN. Do we want to talk about that on the progressive?
Yeah,
panel?
I'll just show it real quick. Let's see. Yeah. Here it is.
The real ominous thing is that critical race theory, which isn't real, turned the suburbs 15 points to the Trump insurrection endorsed Republican. What do Democrats do about that?
I mean, what should Democrats do about that? I don't know. It's confounding. Maybe they should fight for the policies that people voted for them to implement. It's just so crazy. How do we ever fight Republicans and Trump?
We're in a pandemic. You know, if you can't find something to give voters a reason to come out in a pandemic when so many people are suffering right now, it's ridiculous. You know, you can't. Critical race theory is not going to turn an election if you run a decent campaign.
That's right.
Period.
That's right.
And actually, along with that, we were debating whether we show this, but Van Jones sort of gets it, and I appreciate him about a third of the time. So let's show Van Jones at least.
I think that the Democrats are coming across in ways that we don't recognize, that are annoying and offensive and seem out of touch.
Yeah. So here's the thing we were talking about right before the show, Pat and I was discussing with a friend of mine who's a Bernie supporter, but she said, well, America's just racist, you know? And what's happened in our country is everyone who's voted for Trump or any Republican is labeled racist. And that turns off a lot of people who maybe didn't want to vote for Terry McAuliffe because he is a corrupt Clintonite, or because they don't believe that Democrats are going to deliver on any policies. And at least Youngkin was saying parents are going to get to weigh in on the schools where they send their children. I don't agree with anything with Youngkin, but when you don't run on any substantive policy and all you try to do is paint your opposition as being racist, white supremacists, when, by the way, the country is run by the head Democrat who is a racist white supremacist, we have a 40-year history of that, then, you know, you turn off a lot of voters. You cannot just say that half the country or half the voters are deplorables. Hillary tried that.
Yeah, McAuliffe had $57 million spent in his race, and it was all anti-Trump. That's it. That was his messaging was just anti-Trump. And they had, what was it? I forget the name of the terrible, the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project with the fake actors, you know more about that than I did. I barely
I
followed
do.
that
That's
story.
that's
But
our
like,
part 2 of the Nazi. I feel like maybe we need to spin
oh,
the
should
wheel.
we spit? God damn
Yeah.
it. Let's.
By the way, I need a shot, for God's sakes. We're half an hour in, and I've only
Can
had.
I just land it? Can we just say it landed on shot?
Oh wait, it's not on
Does
the
anyone
screen.
care?
It's not on the screen.
Oh,
It's on the screen. You can
good,
say
because it didn't land on shot, so that we'll just spin this again until we get a shot.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for tuning in, Kaylin. We see you guys. Thank you. All right, let's see
All
it.
right. Come on, shot.
baby.
God damn. Why?
What? I feel like that was God telling me I need a shot. Actually, I'm just gonna pour a little bit into my diet.
You know
tonic.
what? Yeah, I'm with you. Let's just keep talking. If you have
All right,
something to say about the
keep
Clintons,
talking. Well, this actually fits right into what we were talking about with Terry McAuliffe, who's a big Clintonite, and of course, Hillary came out to endorse him, which is the kiss of death always. Cheers.
cheers.
And so now I can't remember.
Well,
which place we were going with this. I have a lot to say. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that he lost because of his Clinton ties, because the state is sort of a Republican and incumbents typically lose. So he had to offer something substantial. Like what are you going to, what do you have to offer besides being pro critical race theory? I don't know what the whole debate was in that town.
Yeah.
There was nothing. So let's just look at the Terry McAuliffe fan base here and what they did to try to get him elected. So this is the please clap stuff.
Let's ride. When's the last time we dropped our things and woke up somewhere that we've.
I mean, if that doesn't inspire you to get out and vote, I don't know what would. Although, yeah.
Yourself. Sorry, excuse me.
This I think is also hilarious. So this was the ad paid for by the people for Terry McAuliffe, and it was tying Youngkin to Trump, because apparently they don't know that Trump is still wildly popular. And I mean,
the whole thing looked like a Trump ad. I mean, what the hell are they thinking?
I had a graphic of Youngkin's last rally, and it was throngs of people, thousands and thousands of people were enthusiastically coming out to support him. And to keep running that Pied Piper campaign of tying people to Trump and trying to scare them into voting for you, it almost didn't work. I mean, it didn't work for Hillary. It almost didn't work for Biden because he was such a pathetic candidate. I really think the only reason he won was because of Trump's disastrous handling of COVID.
Which is why in the midterms they're going to get slaughtered, and in 2024 Democrats are set to lose right now, because all the COVID stuff is going to still fall on Democrats, and then all the promises unfulfilled. It's not even fulfilling all the promises. It's just that they're not seen as even trying, and people are seeing through that nonsense. But back to Terry McAuliffe while we still have the clip.
Yeah.
He had other supporters, which surely changed people's mind.
Let's
tell everybody to vote tomorrow. Nothing like saying, you want to meet me tomorrow? What you doing tomorrow? You got any plans tomorrow? Tomorrow's a good day. It's going to be a good day. But the point is.
Oh, God. That's the hope for the future, folks.
It was a good day.
She was chosen by the Clinton world to be the successor, and I think she's got it in the bag. Slam dunk.
I mean, I only saw this coming like 6 years ago or whatever. So
her popularity is so low that they are probably going to try to have a fight between her and Pete Buttigieg, which I'll tell you, I will just grab a bottle of vodka, a bottle of wine, and a tub of popcorn, and I'm out. But I will gleefully watch them destroy each other.
I mean, it's going to be interesting because the only way she can get in, they know, is if she inherits the presidency. So if Biden steps down, she is president.
Yeah.
And I hate that for a lot of reasons, but one, because I thought if there's one person on earth that will never be president, and I'm going to dedicate my life to it, it's going to be Kamala Harris. And
I have a question. Between
Yes.
Kamala and Mayor Pete,
who would I take? I would take Kamala because Kamala is only because it's so obvious. Nobody buys her bullshit.
Yeah.
Nobody buys her bullshit. And there are people that buy Buttigieg's bullshit.
I think he's more evil.
Yeah, he's a well-spoken Beto.
Yeah.
Like basically.
I agree, Caitlin. It makes me want to die too, so I'm just going to drink through it. Yes, Daniel, 100%. It is humiliating. Yep.
All right.
What
do we have? Do we have some more on that? I mean, we have.
Because I always have to come back to this because, what ends up happening. Oh, we didn't show this, which makes me so mad. It's the Sally Albright. Wait, I have too many things going on. I messed up. Sorry. Let me take away that.
I got it.
Oh, you go. Oh shit. Sorry.
Look at the delay. There's a delay, obviously, because
so Sally Albright and all the gross, dark funded DNC people had to come out and blame Bernie and progressives, as we already talked about.
Immediately.
I know. But the thing that I just always come back to, and now I'm not going to be able to find it. I had it here. It was this.
Yeah.
And now I'm just going to cry into my pillow because I look at the crowds that were so supportive of Bernie, and I'm sad that he didn't know that we'd have his back. And I'm sad that that's been diluted. But that's what you need to beat the Trumps of the world and the fascists of the world. What you don't need is the please clap Clinton, McAuliffe, Kamalas of the world. So, all right.
But people are seeing through all the framing is the thing. So we're in all the losses Democrats are going to face from here on out it's really not that much has changed. The only thing that's changed is that they've lost their propaganda stronghold. They can't really convince us they're doing good for us now because we have enough voice with independent media and people outside of MSN and CNN that their framing doesn't affect the entire population. So they now have to deliver with some policy that makes leftist people at least think they're fighting.
Right.
And they're not even trying when you're literally giving a tax break to corporations in this Build Back Better deal, which I remind people, it's not just this one bill is not just this one bill because of the Democratic majority that they have for a brief time, they only have one more bill next year they can pass.
Right.
Because you're only going to be able to do it through the reconciliation process, which is the only process you can use once a year to pass a vote in the Senate with a 50-50 split. So you have one opportunity a year for that. And then next year, we're going to get our asses handed to us, not control the Senate, probably not even control the House. So nothing will pass. So this is the entire Biden Democratic chance to do something for the people. And you're giving corporations a tax cut.
It's your legacy, Democrats, working Joe.
Let's go to the wheel.
Yeah.
Unless you have some wisdom, I just have complaints.
I got it, baby.
Let's go, Brandon. Speaking of propaganda.
Okay, this is hilarious to me. So we need to show the video first of where this came from because it's now taken.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So it was, I don't know, Indy 500.
NASCAR. It was a
NASCAR. Sorry, I'm obviously not in that world, but It was a TV event, and the people were chanting "fuck Biden," and this is how it played on air.
Oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to kind of hang back those first two stages and just watch and learn. What did you learn that helped you there in those closing laps?
Oh my God, it was learning how each line didn't stay to one. Everything shifted top to bottom so much that it was kind of like, okay, let's just stay patient where we're at and hope for the best.
Okay, so what's hilarious about that is his name is Brandon, and everyone behind him is saying, fuck Joe Biden. And the reporter says, well, as you can hear, they're saying, let's go, Brandon. So I know
Obviously.
most of you have already seen this happening, but it's now become a hashtag. People are chanting it actually across the world. There are people chanting, let's go, Brandon, let's go, Brandon, right? Oh my God, let's go, Brandon, as a like sub for both for fuck Joe Biden, but it's also, I think, an indictment of how clearly the media just like changes something to fit the narrative, like right in front of everybody. We heard what they were saying, and she didn't want it to be that, so she just changed it. So I do think it's twofold. I don't think it's only against Biden, but it is also definitely against Biden because they were all chanting that.
But if you notice on social media, there is such an effort to define anyone who pushes the "let's go Brandon" stuff as like some sort of chud right person.
Right.
It's because you're pointing out the obvious media complicity and all this stuff.
Yes.
So they're really going after people like, oh, you know, anyone pushing this nonsense is it's a silly right thing. You know, we all saw it. It's obvious. It's just the media person covering that got something in their ear saying, change the narrative on this thing.
Yeah.
This needs to be. Yeah. Anyway, we know this, but
right. But so the development, and you know, it's funny because like we start trying to put this show together through the week, and things happen, and they become sort of like a big news moment or Twitter moment or whatever, and then quickly other huge events happen, so they're sort of like suppressed a little bit. But there was a pilot on Southwest. Wait, what? Oh yeah, a pilot on Southwest Air said, let's go, Brandon, to his like made the announcement to his to the people on board, and the pundits and the journalists on CNN and mainstream media went crazy and basically called for the pilot's firing, compared him to ISIS terrorists. I mean, it was like
there's the ISIS thing.
Yeah, and
Asha Rangappa,
who's a CIA, ex-CIA, CNN talking head person, is comparing that to saying long live ISIS, because this person said basically fuck Joe Biden. And, you know, I just do want to remind people, first of all, I wouldn't love it if a pilot said that. I have to tell you, I wouldn't love that. I wouldn't love it if a pilot said fuck Trump or fuck whoever. I don't think that's like really appropriate. I really don't. However, I don't know that I would call for his firing on a major cable news network. And I certainly wouldn't compare him to ISIS. I mean, you know, Robert De Niro got up at an award ceremony and said, fuck Donald Trump. Nobody called him ISIS, right?
But that's the point to me. It's not whether it was appropriate for her to, or him or her, the pilot. I assumed it was a her because I'm a feminist. No, because I'm a feminist. It was the pilot. It was the woman in charge. I assumed it was the woman in charge.
Of course, the Karen.
Like, goddamn, you almost got me to say it. All right, but it's not that. It's the overreaction. It's them. They're trying to frame. If you point out the obvious media stuff we all saw, you're like. Yeah,
you're far right.
I mean, it's being pushed by some Russia promoted group who's going to spread this stuff around that the media is full of shit. You know, that's the whole game.
So this was a cartoon that I thought was interesting, right? So like here were Democrats 4 years ago or a year ago. Trump, he's a Russian puppet. He's worse than Hitler. And then as soon as it becomes about their guy, it's like the pearl clutching, right? That's just too much. And again, I loathe Trump. I feel like I always have to say that. He is awful, and people should yell anything they want at him and every politician who sells us out.
Yes.
But comparing people who speak out against the politicians in power, comparing them to ISIS is really a deep misunderstanding of what democracy is.
A pilot on a plane. Like, why would you go to ISIS? Because you're evoking all that terrorist imagery and attaching it to people who saw what they saw.
That's right.
Like, it's not.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
it is dangerous. Yeah,
it's just a mess.
All right. God, we haven't landed on a shot yet, and it's 5:40. What is happening?
Oh, I landed on a shot just for myself.
Yeah, baby.
Let's just go again. Let's go again. No, we're ignoring this. Unless do you want to talk about Romney Republic? All right, let's talk. Okay, let's pause and have a shot regardless.
Thanks for taking charge. I think that's important. I think that is important. I really do. I think.
And if
times call for it.
If you're drinking at home, or smoking, I just have this banner I made because I want you to be responsible.
Abstain responsibly. I like that.
Or not. I forgot about that part. Or not, if you're not. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Solidarity.
All right. So
I want the shot, but then it's always so awful.
What is your shot, by the way? What are you drinking?
What is it?
Oh, vodka. Your vodka, yeah.
Yeah, it's my Sky vodka. Sky vodka. I need an endorsement. Come on. Keep my grift going. What do you got? What are you drinking?
Bullet bourbon.
Okay. I thought you were going to bring one of your sweet little beers.
Oh, I forgot. Well, I'm drinking my beer. So my beer, by the way, since I always try to match my beer to the show.
Okay.
And so I found a beer called Some Grass. So I'm touching some grass.
Look at
for
you.
The Twitter folk. I touch grass.
Look at you. Getting off
the
Twitter.
Most fitting beer I've ever found.
All right, let's just talk about the Mitt Romney Republicans, because as we all know, Chuck Schumer cheers, Patty. Chuck Schumer, was it in 2016, I think, said that for every white working class voter we lose, we're going to gain 2 Romney Republicans. That was the Democratic strategy. Let's go after those Romney Republicans because we want them more than we want our base, and we're going to sell them out. And what I really think is important is 2 things. One is semi-hilarious because apparently those wine moms in Virginia who had voted for Biden did a 15-point swing to vote for Youngkin yesterday. So those are your suburban Romney Republicans there. But the thing that I thought was actually really repellent was Romney, and what I thought was a Hitler mustache at first. I was like, what is going on? Giving biscuits to the boss, which is Kirsten Sinema, after she, is fighting so hard for her corporate donors. It's an homage to Ted Lasso, which is also ironic because that show has some good working class themes behind it. I don't know if anybody's watched it, but it actually really does have some nods to striking and to labor and to standing up for popular policies like that. So for him to don a Ted Lasso costume, I know, can you hear Sandy? Sorry, my dog protecting me. Oh, I can't hear you.
I love you, Sandy.
Aw, yeah.
Sorry.
So
sorry, Leila has a 3-legged dog who's on the downslide, and it's been a rough shot. Anyway, I don't even want to go there. I'm sorry. It's gonna make Leila cry. But
no.
Cheers.
So anyway, the Romney Republicans, they're always going to go after. It's like this small sliver that keeps toggling back and forth between right-wing Democrats like Biden and right-wingers like Youngkin.
Yeah.
And those are not the people that we should be going after. There's 50% of the voting public.
No, you need some reason for your voters to come out. You need FDR stop fascism with the New Deal.
That's right.
Like, just can we smack people around the head? Like when you talk to your normie centrist Dem friends, or even the people who like Bernie's policies, but they're worried about fascism, especially those people, smack them in the head with FDR understood how you stop that. You give people things they need.
That's right.
You fulfill some pledge, even just one big pledge.
Yep.
And people see, oh, you fought for us.
Yeah.
You did it. And Biden can't do that on any level.
He refuses to. And you know, it's funny, like people keep saying, I mean, I know we all know this, the rotating villain and Manchin and Sinema. There are, as we've said so many times, as everybody knows, there are dozens of Democrats waiting to take their spot, waiting to be the bad guy. The Biden agenda is the one that Manchin is fighting for. It's not Build Back Better. Build Back Better started off as the Bernie agenda. Bernie and the progressives are sort of fighting for it harder than Biden is, because it's not Biden's agenda. He couldn't name you one thing he cares about in there.
All right. So since we're on this topic, and who knows what we're going to spin on the wheel.
I know. And we have 13 minutes.
Just do a shot. No, but do a shot anyway. But let's just see how, okay, our world leaders, climate change is undeniable if you believe in science. So let's
our administration.
See,
we believe science. Show me how we believe in science. I don't even know. You got it?
I'm trying, but technology is another story.
It's crazy. I got it. I'm going to get it for you.
Right? Oh, Boris.
I just shut you off.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to show Boris Johnson. This is so at COP 26, I believe it's called.
Yeah, 26, yep.
Which is weird. Like, why do you have to name it COP? I mean, that's another fuck you.
It really is. Yeah.
So
the
Boris Johnson
climate initiative in Glasgow. Yeah.
Yeah. So he fell asleep at the climate initiative in Glasgow. And then he was followed by Biden showing how much please listen to the words, because this is important. Like they're telling you right here, the actual speaker is telling people how important this is. And here's Biden's response.
This conference is one of the most important meetings in history. You have the chance to make decisions and reach agreements which will affect the lives of generations to come. You are in a position of extraordinary power. You can change forever the trajectory we are on. You can make a world that is once again full of hope, not fear. This is my message from Earth to come. On behalf of we, the 15, I ask.
Oh my God. How did it take 33 seconds for them to send somebody in to wake him up? That is the leader of the free world at a conference that is addressing existential threat of climate disaster, and he's falling asleep, and it took 33 seconds to send somebody in to wake his ass up.
Well, and the you that he was talking about, that speech was probably poised to Biden. I mean, if there's one person that can affect climate change, it's Biden. I mean, because you can bring all your allies in, obviously.
We have the biggest military in the world, right? Yes.
Yeah, which, as we've said, is the biggest contributor to climate change, whose budget just got increased as we left Afghanistan, which was the biggest expense that we have as a country. So we were out of Afghanistan. Excuse me. That's the bourbon burping.
And then we jacked up the funding for our defense budget.
Well, good job.
By the way, I don't even know what we're defending anymore. We have no infrastructure. We have no healthcare plan. Yeah. We have no living wage. Our schools are dilapidated. We have lead in water all across the country. I mean, what are we defending at this point? I don't know.
I mean, critical race theory. I don't even know. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Do we have time for another wheel?
Yeah,
spin?
let's spin the damn wheel.
Let's do it.
Yeah, baby.
Audacity of hope.
I gotta say, I'm really happy we landed on this one because one of my goals in life is to make sure that everybody really knows who Barack Obama is and how evil he is. So let's take a look at Obama stumping for, was that him stumping for Terry McAuliffe or for Murphy? It might have been for Murphy. I can't remember. But more important than whom he's stumping for is his message to voters. Are you putting it up or am I?
Oh, you're waiting on me to put it up?
I know why sometimes folks just get tired, and maybe they say, I'm not going to bother voting this time. But here's the thing, we can't afford to be tired. I remember in 2016, folks said, I'm not inspired. Obama was okay, but we didn't get everything I wanted, so I'm just going to sit it next time. And y'all know how that turned out. That's what happens when you're not paying attention. That's what happens when you become complacent or you let your frustration lead to inaction. We cannot afford to be tired because of the young people here and the ones who are coming. I know it's hard. Phil doesn't claim he's going to solve every problem in New Jersey right away. I didn't solve every problem when I was president, but the fact is that as hard as it is, we can still make it better. It's hard to undo the legacy of discrimination that goes back centuries, but we can make it better. It's hard to deal with special interests who want to keep the status quo when you're trying to make the economy more fair and just, but you can make it better. It's hard in a big country where people disagree to get everybody moving in the same direction, but we can do better than we're doing. We really can. We can make it better. And when you've got the right person in the job, we might not get every single person employed, but we can get more people, more jobs. We may not get every child the best education in the world right here in Newark. We can give a lot more kids better education here in Newark. I didn't get every American health care, but boy, we got a whole lot more people in America health care. It makes a difference when we decide to make things better. When you've got somebody in your corner who's shown you that they will work for you, who has a track record of accomplishment. You got to go out there and work for them. Not because everything's going to suddenly be perfect, but because it's going to be better. And you're preventing others from making it worse.
Oh my God. He honestly, it grates on me even more than Kamala at this point.
It's painful.
It is,
It's
because
painful.
he took our hope and the movement and squashed it, and he's going to blame voters instead of himself. There isn't a single, he comes out, yeah, he does. He has a lot of goddamn nerve because that is who he is. He comes out of his money cave, twice to crush Bernie, to crush the NBA strike. He is truly reprehensible because people don't know who he is. People are
imagine if Obama came out and supported some of these strikes. Come on. If he's who centrists believe he is, he would be supporting all these strikes.
Yep. Yeah, he hasn't come out once. Not once. The only thing he ever comes out to do is to chastise voters and to tell them not to hope for too much. There's another. Yeah.
And he started this whole thing with remember when you guys fucked up in 2016? It's your fault. Like, you fucked up in 2016. Not remember in 2016 when Democrats didn't deliver. And
You're right.
Didn't, it's all preserving his record. It's just a bunch of shit. And obviously when he took office, the first thing he did was you can find the email on WikiLeaks. He literally appointed cities cabinet that they wanted him to appoint.
Yep.
So everyone who took power was from the bankers, from Wall Street.
That's right.
First thing they did was fuck over everyone who lost their homes in the housing crisis. I mean, they're absolute trash. I mean,
yeah. Then, he ran on a version of healthcare for all and a public option, got rid of that, disbanded the People for Obama. He had a huge grassroots movement. I mean, that's what Bernie kind of based his model on, and he just disbanded it, threw them to the wolves. Then he tells us in another thing that maybe change is coming too rapidly for many, because he's always got sympathy for the people in power, right? But this
rapid change always hurt people. Rapid change, like if I got healthcare immediately tomorrow, it would really be bad for me.
It's disconcerting.
People would be like, "Hey, you help poor people too quickly."
That's what they always say. Oh, I already did that one. This is one of my favorite fake covers, but it basically talks like it's a mock cover, and I don't know who made it up, but when you spread it out and look into it, it's a very honest telling of Obama's legacy about bombing Yemen and weddings and hospitals and war crimes and drone strikes and Libya. And I mean, it's really kind of a travesty, his legacy, and he's doing everything he can to try to preserve something there. I don't know what that graphic is. Oh yeah, I don't know. Everybody's always going to point at progressives and tell them just to shut up and get in line and unity and all that crap, because that's what they do. That is what they do.
Yeah, that's the whole narrative we've heard in the last 2 days, especially because they knew 2 days ago they were going to lose. They probably knew a month ago they were going to lose, which is the whole point with Democrats. They know they're going to lose these races, and they're still not trying to point to get something positive for people they can point to.
And they're already blaming progressives for our loss in 2022.
Oh, yeah. So if they cared one iota about you as a person, they would take all these lessons that are obvious to the general public and move left. Because as we showed the graphic, I'm going to show it again, because this is Biden's legacy. Biden's legacy is this. And obviously, look at all that support. I mean, you're talking about support among all people. These are not Democrats. Like, everyone supports these things. These are obvious things to most people. And the Democratic Party has pulled all these from Biden's one legacy bill. Like, Republicans wouldn't even really fault you for passing something you fucking ran on that's easy, like paid family leave, or like taxing corporations. You think taxing corporations is going to lose you votes anywhere?
Yeah. But again, all of those percentages are across the board. Those are not just for Democrats. Those are for Republicans, Democrats, independents. Those are for voters, and they are popular, and Democrats are stripping them out because all Democrats are doing is working for the same corporate donors that Republicans are working for. They just have a slightly different patina on their facade. That's all it is. All right. Yeah. So that's a lot of depressing stuff, but I do feel like we should leave with a glimmer of hope at our 1 hour mark. And that is, as much as they are going to try to drive this narrative that progressives cost them last night, that progressives are going to cost them 2022 and 2024, and they should just stop their purity tests and get behind the Build Back Better.
One more Democrat. If we just have one more Democrat, we're good.
And it's all the fault of progressives for sticking to the compromise that everybody made and saying we had to vote for both bills at the same time. And the fact that the compromise was $3.5 trillion, and now it's been whittled down in spite of all the lies that the establishment is pushing. We do have a couple pieces of good news. And that is, 70%, 69% of DSA endorsed candidates won last night across the country. That's kind of crazy. You won't hear that.
Yeah, and I don't want to hype up DSA because I have very mixed feelings on DSA, but let's be honest. I mean, anyone, I support any third party action that gets people in power that are not necessarily Democrats, even though a lot of the DSA were Democrats, but winning outside of the Democratic Party is like, if we can actually make that happen, that's it's going to be a game changer. But regardless of that, we need to protest and rally and burn shit down.
Absolutely. But I do just think like that gets lost in it. I think in Tucson, they voted for a $15 minimum wage, which is still, completely insufficient. It's not even going to kick into 2025, but that's Kirsten Sinema's district. And they voted last night for $15 minimum wage. And, she did her stupid thumbs down, right? Like those policies are popular. $15 minimum wage won in Florida, right?
And for that to pass and her to be in front of the Senate fucking thumbs downing the thing, like who supports her? Like it's down to like 10 people. It's mostly family at this point.
That's the problem when they're not, again, like the business model, winning isn't about gaining re-election. Once you have gotten there, winning is your corporate donors getting a think tank job or okay, there you go.
Yeah, so here's the graphic, like a minute late because I'm a little slow right now.
We did our own shots. I can't believe we didn't land on that once today.
That's all right.
Yeah. And again, like it doesn't mean that you maybe agree with every single one of these people, but that is not something you're going to be hearing on CNN and MSNBC and most of mainstream media, Politico, or all of those establishment places.
Yeah, so I feel like we can't end this show without at least talking about India Walton and the race. And I thought, it was on the wheel. This is the problem with the wheel a little bit, but we'll work it out. But they put everything she won the Democratic primary, India
Socialist.
Walton,
I know everybody
in Buffalo
socialist
as a socialist. And they had legal fights about getting the other candidate on the ballot, and the whole party were to turn against any progressive that tried to get on the ballot after losing the primary. Would get hammered so much they have no chance of winning whatsoever.
Right.
And they did the opposite with her opponent.
They didn't. It wasn't unity for the black woman who won the primary. The Democrats didn't all get behind her and support her. That's crazy. I thought we were all about unity.
Yeah. 100%. And also a lesson to people in her position. So she got a lot of her support and tried to appeal to the mainstream people instead of turning out her base at the end. Which is the word in the local elections. So she, for example, got a lot of her support by the teachers union, and they supported her because she was against charter schools. And then she comes out to a business thing and says, I support charter schools. She hired there was a union strike for printing stuff, and she hired scabs for printing stuff, which all of this, you have to take this with a grain of salt of like, she's running a campaign. What do you have to do? What are the actual political calculations to winning versus losing? But it's fucked. But like, your base is going to be incredibly discouraged if they don't believe in you now, because we've seen so many frauds and so many people have disappointed the left that it's very easy to disappoint the progressive base, which is not a knock on progressives. It's just a knock on Democrats, and it's a knock on the Democratic Party that we don't.
Yeah, you have to stand by your principles. And I do think also, so that's half of it or part of it. I don't even know the percentages. Part of it is that she, kind of floundered at the end that way. But I think a larger part, and this is something progressives really have to grapple with, how to move forward in the future, is that she had an enormous onslaught of dark money against her, smearing her, bringing up parts of her life, her private life, that are, part of often just being poor. She's not from a wealthy family. She sometimes owed back taxes. She had her car, she had lots of parking tickets. Little things. Meanwhile, her opponent, who is under FBI investigation,
literal FBI. Yeah. So the Democratic Party emphasized the fact that she had parking tickets. Parking tickets were more important than an FBI investigation.
Yeah.
That should tell you how much
Yeah.
bullshit the
The
Democratic Party.
corruption and the dealings with the like the real estate developers in Buffalo that the person Byron Brown had under FBI investigation after losing the primary. A judge who he has ties with ruled that that they had to stop the FBI investigation, and he was allowed to be a write-in candidate. I mean, there was lots of stuff that happened that was completely dishonest and corrupt. And what I really think is important for progressives is to call that out, and don't think that if you play nice with the establishment, they're going to be nice to you. They're not, because if you actually stand for those progressive values, they know it's going to cut into their bottom line. So whether you're nice to them, or if you're followers or Bernie bros or mean online or whatever the hell, none of that actually matters, because we know Kamala's followers are like disgusting, death wishers to people. They don't care. They don't care about any of that. They just care about what they think you're going to run on. And if they're worried that you're going to cut into their bottom line, it doesn't matter how nice you are to them, they are going to slit your throats.
Yeah, nobody running for office should ever play nice with Democrats. I mean, we've just seen how it plays out so many times. Like, if there's one person that was really ahead in the game, it was India Walden. She won the goddamn primary and then peeled a little left. I mean, I hate to make it about her, but like, you have to stick to it. I mean, how many people do we see lose elections when they marginally peeled left or right? Center. They will say center. So pivoting to the center is pivoting to the right.
Yeah.
Is the point. All right.
It is. So fight the good fight. Solidarity to all these strikers out there, you guys. And right before we came on, I saw that the New York taxi cabs won their effort to get a cap to what they could possibly owe for their medallions. So that's huge. Way to go. It had gone up to like $8 million they could owe over a lifetime, and it's back down to $174,000, which is still an enormous amount to have to pay off, but that's amazing. And strikers around the country, you are our heroes. Thank you. Solidarity. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Cheers.
We have Rebecca Parson on next week, so we're really excited to talk to her progressive candidate from Washington State. And
amen. And I just want to say, I second Lila's cheers to all the people striking. Everyone has a right to be disenfranchised from Bernie 2020 and from Democrats disappointing them. Harness that and join the strikes, join any action you can locally. Vote for Dems if you want to when it comes up. That's irrelevant, but support the strikes, support every movement you can outside of electoral politics as well, please.
And keep on punching up. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.